views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Russell. Welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. I am a psychic intuitive who's been reading tarot cards for over 25 years. I'm also Reiki certified. Join me as I read cards, share intuitive messages, promote healing, and much, much more. Hi, everybody. It's Caitlin from the Healing Light Podcast. Welcome. Before I get to my special guest tonight, Corbie Mitleid, I would like to thank you for tuning in. Just a reminder that you can find the Healing Light Podcast on Spreaker or really anywhere you listen to your podcasts. If you want to reach out to me for show ideas, feedback, or would like to be a guest, I am on Facebook at The Healing Light NH. That's my page. I am also on Instagram, The Healing Light NH, as well as TikTok. And I'm working on my YouTube channel. So tonight I am thrilled. I'm so happy to have Corbie on. She is a psychic. She's an author. I am reading one of her books right now, and she's quite the inspiration. And we're actually going to talk about tarot first. We're going to go over tarot, the history of it, and her relationship with it, and how we connect with readings for her clients, and all that. So welcome, Corbie, to the Healing Light Podcast.
It's great to be here. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, very excited. So I said author. Did I look correctly? You have 3 books that you wrote?
Yes, I do. One of them is the one that you've got, which is a self-help volume, and the other 2 are based on the work that I do in the world of wiki-woo, as I laughingly call it.
I love wiki-woo. That's a great term. I'll try not to steal that, although I will. It
wasn't mine in the beginning. Feel free to use it.
All right, excellent. So you are a member of the American Tarot Association and the Tarot Guild.
Yes.
So how long have you been reading tarot, and what first sparked your interest in it?
Well, I have been reading now for 50 years. In 1973, when I was a senior in high school, the movie Live and Let Die came out with Jane Seymour as Solitaire, the card reader. And Spencer Gifts had the James Bond 007 tarot deck, and I bought it because we were all hippies then. We had our elephant bell-bottoms and our David Crosby fringe jackets and our decks. Now, 5 years later, everybody else had moved on to roller skates and disco balls. I stuck with the cards because I absolutely loved the stories that they told. And so I have stuck with them, adding on oracle cards, but tarot is my main tool because they can roll out stories that people understand. They show people how they can make their life better. Not as in, we are the magic cards and we can tell you. But they allow the psychology of what possible options are to be clear to the client so they can then take charge over their own life.
I like that a lot. It kind of sounds like, how I view them as well. So what I've been reading tarot for not as long as you, 50 years. That's amazing. That's awesome. I've been reading probably 35 years, 30 years, something like that. But I don't know anything about the history. My dad introduced me to the cards and I took off with them. I tried, books. Books are just whatever. They're just generic. And then my mentor, who's a psychic medium, told me just go with my intuition. So I do that. I use my intuition and I direct, what you said. But I never knew the history of it, what they mean and how it came into, play in our lives. So would you mind going over a little bit of that?
The history is kind of fuzzy. Some people say it started with the Egyptians, and some people say it started with 15th century Italy. Whatever it is, since the Renaissance, I believe they have been useful. And literally the major arcana, the 21 cards from the Fool to the World, they tell a shamanic journey of every man. And you have numerology correlations, you have astrological correlations, and that's, talking about that, we're going into the weeds, which I'm not going to do. But the key is, it's like any thought form. When you give a great deal of energy to a thought form, it becomes real in a conscious way. How many people believe in Santa Claus? Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. There now is a thought form with the energy that we give to what we think of as Santa Claus.
Gotcha.
So we see the high priestess. We have an idea of what she does. We see the emperor. We all know what emperors are like. And so the cards are imbued with that kind of meaning. However, I will say that the cards aren't static. Cards are a doorway. There are times when I see a card and all of a sudden Spirit says, this is what you need to say. Oh, excuse me. For instance, there's a card that is the Three of Pentacles, Rider-Waite style. It shows a medieval guy working on a stained glass window in a church. And it has meanings like long-term and mastery and all of that. But when I was reading in Kitchener, several years ago, Kitchener, Ontario, reading for a couple, I looked at the card and I looked at them and I said, I have no idea why I'm saying this, but there is a deconsecrated or abandoned church, and that's where you need to open up a cafe bakery. And I'm thinking they're going to just back out of the room and call it, the loony bin. And they just look at each other and nod, and they look at me and go, oh yeah, we know which one. We've been arguing about that for 2 years.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow.
That's why you do have to trust your intuition. Don't use it to back up. Oh, well, the client didn't like what I said here, so I'll say, well, it really means this. Have the strength and the conviction to tell them what you really see. Because there will be occasions when you read and the client is not happy about what you see, but it is true.
Mm-hmm.
Getting Kitchener. I used to go up there 3 times a year. I was up there Labor Day weekend, and I saw some challenges in the cards, which I told to the client. And the client looks at me and gets up and says, you suck, and walks away. Well, all right, well, live and be well. I'm back in January, and who is the first person in my chair but this woman? And she sits down and she says, last time I said you sucked. I said, yes, I remember. It's because you told me that I was going to take in a boarder and then I was going to want to sell my house. And I thought that was all bull, but my daughter got pregnant and moved home, and I'm going to sell my house now to help raise my grandson. And I still don't like you, but I want to know what else you see. Don't shoot the messenger. That's why to be a good reader, you must have the conviction of what you say, because it's not whether you're right or wrong. You are merely the megaphone for spirit. Mm-hmm. Period. End of statement. It's why I tell people I take my work seriously, me not so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell people, the cards are the messages that I receive, you may think you want to know, about finances, and all of a sudden we're talking about your house or, your job. I said, and that's what they're saying that this is what's really on your mind and what goes behind that. So, if we're going down that path, then that's the way we're going. So yeah, I absolutely see it
Yes.
that way. And not everyone likes to hear what we have to say. When you do readings, probably, does it depend on how long the session is? Do you do like 3 cards, 5 cards? Do you do the Celtic cross or 10? Or?
Actually, I try to immediately give a spread that is on target. When you sit down with me, probably I'll do a 10-card Celtic just for the overview. But then, for instance, if you had said, I really want to look at my career, I'll look at you and say, okay, 3 ways we can do it. You want to stay where you are, change jobs, or open your own place. That is not cold reading, because each one of those has a specific multi-card spread. Let's say that this woman says, I want to open up a vintage clothing store. Will I be successful? First thing I'll say is never ask yes or no questions, because what if I said no, you have no place to go? And that opens you up to the fake gypsies who go, oh, but I have $600 candle we'll fix. No. So you always ask the hows. So for her, I would have a card for her, a card for her partner in the business, a card for the energy in the business, a card for the brick and mortar location to look for, how to market it, clients, competition, staff, finances, what she needs to know, and best possible outcome. That's 12, 13 cards because it pinpoints the information she wants. Now, let's take relationships. The eternal question, does Bruce love me? Very simple. 5 cards. Client, Bruce, the relationship, what they need to know, and best possible outcome. And if she goes, I still don't know what to do, then I'll pull the 3 threes. 3 cards, status quo, she just bumbles along. 3 cards for the come to Jesus meeting, and they have a serious talk. And 3 cards for hostile. Bye-bye, I'm done. I'm getting out of here. There's nothing to do. Now, the key is I have to allow her free will. The leave may be doing the Beetlejuice sign, but if she says, I'll just keep working on it, I have to zip it. The only time I break that rule is if she makes it clear that she's gaslit, battered, and needs to get out for her own safety. Then the reader's turban comes off, my reverend collar goes on, and I cancel it that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is whatever spirit wants her to know, and I've given her the information, but I can't not force her to do anything about it.
Yeah, absolutely, totally, 100%. Yeah, I tend to, I'm similar to that. I pull the 10, but then do readings. They want to do their own tarot reading for other people. But a lot of times I'll get people saying, I'd like to do readings for myself. So do you feel, or can people read tarot on their own, or?
They can't, but boy, they have to put their ego on the shelf. They really, really do.
Yeah.
That's why when I read for myself, I actually rarely will use tarot. I find that a really good deck for me, it says it's tarot, but it's really Zen, is Osho. Because, for instance, if I was pulling 3 cards on what is my trip going to be like to Seattle in June, I'll pull 3 cards. And what does the deck have to say? Politics. In other words, I am going to be staying with clients. I am going to be working with a director on a television show and indie film. And so I can't just let it all hang out. There's going to be politics with people I don't know and I really need to listen. Second card, healing. This card tells me that because the trip has been extended a week and I'm going to have a lot of downtime, I have the chance to heal myself because I rarely take vacation. So it's saying, take the chill. Final card, possibilities, which I have recognized because I'm making some very, very interesting connections out there with people who have been Hollywood writers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, those 3 cards make the most sense, not just pulling tarot.
Yeah, I like that idea. Zen. Yes, send me that one too.
Okay.
I have oracle decks, and and people ask me, how if they want to do readings, or get tarot cards, what do they do? And is it, there's that old, I don't know. Well, I told it has to be given to me by someone, and I always say, no, it doesn't. No, you need to find one that resonates and speaks to you, that meets, that good positive energy. So you can go to the local metaphysical store. I said, honestly, if you're in a place like I'm out in the boonies, I live, 45 minutes from the nearest physical store. Etsy, Amazon, anyone. It doesn't have to be whatever resonates with you. It's what you do when you receive the cards. You want to make sure that you cleanse them and you thank them every day for messages and all that. So I feel that way too.
Yeah, they're your buddies. They want to work with you. The energy in the cards. But in the old days, wrap them in silk. Setting aside ritual was important because they were mysterious. Now they're not mysterious. They are companions.
Right, yeah.
And so don't worry about, oh my God, I didn't put them in silk. I mean, to be perfectly honest, because I read 6 days a week for clients, I got a brochure thing from Staples. They live on my desk like this. They're not mad at me. But it's easy. It's easy.
Yeah.
And when I have them all like that, very interesting. If somebody asks me a question, I'm not sure what deck to use, I just look at it, and one of them will kind of get a little sparkling, go, hey, can I play with that one? And it's like, okay, boom. The next one's to play with you. Okay.
I like that a lot. So I want to just move a little bit forward because, not only read tarot and oracle cards, but you are also an author. So I just wanted to talk about the books you've written and how that all came about.
Words are my drug choice. That's how it happened. And my father, who was my best friend, we shared together, always said, I don't care, just write something every day. You've got this to say. And he was right. So the book, Clean Out Your Life Closet, which you have, came because I asked clients at the end of the year, what are the biggest things that you always stumble over that I should write about next year? And they came up with 4 things: clarity, adaptability, simplicity, and making friends with stress. So when I decided to write a book, I didn't want to be like all the other self-help books you always know.
Right.
Because I bought my first one at 13. And I remember the first paragraph to the day. Judy has a groovy wardrobe. Remember, this is 1968. Her hair, fab, and her makeup is far out. But nobody likes Judy because Judy's fat. Right there, hundreds of thousands of American teenagers were told, you are worthless unless you're skinny. Doesn't matter how smart you are, what you look like, if you have to be thin. And too many books make us do that. One of the books that I was researching said that you needed to get up an hour or 2 early every morning to do yoga and avoid food with leptin. I'm sorry, if you're a single mom with a job and 2 preschool kids in Milwaukee, you are not going to do that. So the book set you up to fail.
Right.
What I did instead is for each chapter, I said, here's some of the dumb things I did, and maybe here is a client story. And then it was, here are some suggestions. And at the end of each chapter, I give you the adventure pages. And these have questions that you must answer from your own life. You can't turn to page 82. For instance, on a chapter, how perfect the story is good. Where do you beat yourself up most often? Why? Reimagine those times with the idea that good can triumph over perfect. What does it look like now? How would your life change if you stopped thinking perfection was the only correct response to a project or situation? Now, you and your best buddy could buy the book the same day, read the book at the same pace, and finish it on the same day. But if you each do the questions, it will now be that each of you has a personal manual. You read the book with me. So that was the first one. The other one I cheerfully say is about WikiWoo. Psychic Yellow Brick Road, How to Find the Real Wizards and Find Monkeys. Good psychic guidance is art, and you shouldn't settle for a forgery. Too many people don't know how to choose it at all. So they can get taken by the shysters, they can ask the wrong questions, they go for a week when they don't need one. And I wrote this book based on a very early fair I did in Toronto. It had 250 booths. And no matter how good the promoters are, they cannot vet everybody there. So I was right across from a fake gypsy, the jingling jewelry and the bad accent whole thing. And there was a woman walking down the aisle seeing who she wanted to look at, talk to. The gypsy comes running out and grabs the woman by the arm. Oh. This is called hooking, and it's as bad as the other kind of hooking. Oh. She says to the woman, "Oh, you don't need to pick up your $50. I do. Jump off, drag the woman in behind her screen." 20 minutes later, we see this woman leaving crying hysterically, and a lot of us run over to see what happened. The gypsy had said, "Oh, you have family curse. How many in your family? 4? Your dog? $50 every family member, 25 doggies, small weeks." And told the woman she didn't burn 450 candles at the Roman Catholic Church. I bless real good, only $1 candle. Her entire family's been in a car accident in 2 weeks, and she bought it.
Oh my God, that is horrible.
That happens. Look, that happens more often than I can tell you, whether it's gypsies or people that say, "Oh, well, I want the married woman down the street, but you have climbing knots to untie, as you do. She'll leave her husband and come to you." I mean, it's all bull. Mm-hmm. And that damages those of us, the good intuitives. So this is a book that tells you how to find a psychic, what questions to ask, what's not going to work for you, when to run. Yeah. And there is no other book out there like that. And frankly, I do not care. If you never come to me after reading this book, if it helps you choose a good intuitive and you feel safe, all those rise. All of us have a better reputation. And the last one is, if you're nuts enough to want to do what I do, you've got a magic who needs a genie. Is everything I learned from being on the road for 18 years, 45 weekends a year on the road. My nickname is the Travel Channel. And in here, I give everything: how to charge what you're worth, advertising, networking, professional, how to work with your clients. But I also have some things in here that I call Corbie Gets Candid. And this is important because there are some things that you'll never get told by other psychics. And you have to realize this may be, sit around and say, wiki woo, but it doesn't mean that it's a kumbaya moment and everybody is friends with everybody else. They just won't. And it's also things, how do you work with a situation? Here's one. At one show, I actually had a fellow who leaned over my table, poked my lunch with his finger and said, "Hey, I saw you eating lunch yesterday. You didn't do that again today. My wife wants your reading now." I guarantee you they did not and will never have to sit down with me. For one thing, it's blatantly disrespectful. Rather than seeing me as a human being, I am a commodity to order up like a burger, a latte, or a bar wash. People need to be ready for that kind of thing. Yeah. Another one, I read a young man who did not like what I told him about his relationship. The next day, I found an anonymous death threat on my table, which is why you sit down with me, you must sign in with your handwriting in my sign-in sheet. If you can't write, your arm is broken, or you got some kind of disability, yes, I'll do it for you. But it's important because we were able to match up the handwriting on the death threat with a sign-in sheet person, and we turned it over to the police. Wow. This is the world to the kids. That's and everybody doing this work you have to be ready for.
Yeah. I want that book. Note to self. Okay, excellent. Yeah. I mean, I do. There's a lot of things you talk about that I need to really consider and think about. Absolutely. And thank you for that. I hope you get tons of people who buy the book after this. And then finally, I just want to talk about your podcast because I've listened to it and I really like it. And you and I talked about one of your ideas. Like, I won't steal that. I won't steal your content, of course. But yeah. So
which idea? Remind me that you wanted to steal.
Well, about you doing your little 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh, actual. Yeah. The reason I did that is, I have done my own podcast years ago, and I interviewed people for an hour, and I made them look freaking awesome. And I was talking about, and I said, "This is not me." So these days, especially because our attention span has gotten shorter and shorter, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I have a theater background. I have a great voice. I'm a good writer. So for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I can put something in front of you that you listen to, that you remember, that you laugh. Yeah. And it means whatever happens to me, I'm 69, I'm not going to live forever. My voice and my words are here when I'm gone. And that to me is very important. That just because I'm no longer here doesn't mean I can't help people.
I love that. Absolutely. Great. All right. So I want to thank you very much. What a great conversation we had. Enlightening. Just great. And I wanted to ask you finally, people want to book you, people want to find you, how do they reach you, etc.
So simple. Everything is Corbie Mitleid. CorbieMitleid.com is my website. Corbie Mitleid at Fire Through Spirit is my page on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. Meeting all of that is Corbie Mitleid.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show. What a great conversation. And thank you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
As the #1 selling walk-in tub in North America, Safe Step walk-in tubs are built to maximize your safety and comfort. Each tub comes standard with a dual hydrotherapy system, so you can enjoy the luxuries of bathing comfortably at home. Soothing jets increase mobility and ease pain, while the rainfall shower head refreshes you from head to toe. Visit SafeStepTub.com today to request your free quote and ask about our special offers.